Welcome to the Breaking 90 podcast, where we talk about all things sustainable fat loss. We take people on 90-day journeys to creating fat loss forever. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy the episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Breaking 90 podcast. I'm your host, Jerrika Kelly, with my awesome co-host, Kelly Sarlo, and we're two of the coaches of Breaking 90 Fitness. Thanks for listening, guys. Hey, Kelly.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. What's new in your world?
Well, it's now summer for the kids, and I'm again, living my best auntie life. One of my little nephews is in Timbits soccer, and it's giving me so much joy because I remember being that young and having an aunt that sat in a folded chair and came to all of my games and just what that meant to me. So
how cool is that? And you get to do that.
Yeah, and she's actually passed. She passed earlier this year. And for me to be sitting in that same kind of position, my heart just feels so full of gratitude for what she gave to me. I had no clue at the time what it was going to really mean. And now to be sitting here being like, Teo's going to have all of these memories, and that just thrills me. So that's what's new and good in my world.
So fun. I'm so glad. What do you got?
Okay, so first of all, I love lists, but I don't like people who make padded lists where it has to be like 5 or 10. I just feel like we always kind of build out these rounded lists for the sake of psychologically satisfying numbers.
Okay.
So I thought maybe that you could share or bust some female fitness lies. So things that we are taught as females to believe in this industry. Maybe you could kind of dispel those for us. What do you think?
I love it. And my mind just automatically goes to I don't know, those cosmopolitans and health mags that I would read when I was 14, 15. And on the front page, it's like, well, we'll get into some of them because this is where my mind's going, and I'll pull out some of those covers that I'm thinking of right now.
I look forward to this. Go ahead.
Okay, the first one that automatically comes to mind is the 1,500 calorie famous number. That number gets thrown around for females. Like, in order to lose weight, you gotta just eat 1,500 calories. That'll get you there. And it's like, there's so much more that goes into figuring out what number is best for you, if that's your goal, and if tracking is something you want to pursue. But why 1,500? First and foremost, as someone who's studied the human body and the way that we burn calories and our metabolism, and for grown-ass women with muscle on our body or even fat on our body, we require more than 1,500 calories to basically live and sustain life. So then we start throwing around this number like this is all you should eat. And you know what? You'll be tired at first, but who cares, because you're going to be losing fat. And it's all it's all around this have to feel better and be happier. You have to lose fat by eating 1,500 calories. And I guess that kind of gives me 2 points, but I just really, that's one that I feel obviously very strongly about, and we do require more than that. And the focus shouldn't be on such a small number, rather than figuring out, what type of exercise regimen are you doing? What type of foods do you love? Like, having that conversation with either a coach or doing some research to realize that number is likely much too low.
Mm-hmm.
Or just maybe it does work for your best friend, but it's not going to work for you.
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome. So that's the first one. Do you want me to dive more into them, or is that?
No, I think that's really clear.
Okay.
Because as far as I can understand, if I was just being a listener right now, let me repeat it back for you. Like, I would understand that maybe 1,500 calories might work for me, but there's so many other factors to consider for my unique experience.
Absolutely.
So we can just blanket term it for every single adult, which, by the way, if you look on the Tim Hortons menu, that's 12 years and older. You cannot tell me at 12 and 36 years old that we need the exact same thing.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Right, because we all do different things. We have different body composition, we have different muscle mass, we have different bone density, right? So different hormones that are at different points in our life. So
yes,
I mean, I could add the list goes on. Okay, the next one I'm thinking of specifically for women and our glutes, right? So these magazines or social medias do these exercises to grow your glutes, because A, that's a goal you should have, right? They tell us that we should have bigger glutes. And B, these specific ones will get you there. So it's like a two-parter. One, if you want bigger glutes, then good for you. That could be an awesome goal. If you don't, then you don't have to be doing this. And I think it's just this whole era of growing our behind is like something that's been pushed on us over and over again, that we need this look. And I think that's a bit absurd, for one. But for two, if that's something that you want and want to achieve, the biggest myth here is that doing 20 reps of bodyweight glute bridges, doing 10 reps of even bodyweight lunges are going to grow your glutes so massive that you're going to be so proud of your accomplishments. Unfortunately, doing bodyweight glute bridges, yes, they will make you feel stronger. They will be good for, where the muscle attaches to the bone. They'll strengthen the area. They may even give you that quote unquote toned look, a little bit more firm. However, we require progressive overload and resistance training, aka weights or bands of some nature, to make me to challenge this large muscle over time. So, just doing the same little glute body weight routine for the next 8 weeks won't get you the big glutes that you want to achieve. We've got to add weight. You do need to lift heavy to see these muscles grow.
You crushed number 2.
Oh, awesome.
So great.
Love it. Thank you. So nothing there. That's good.
Okay. Can I just point out what I really loved?
I like this. Yeah. I like the feedback after each one.
Yeah. Cause I'm really just trying to play the role of listener and not like kind of co-coach, I guess. I really like that off the top, you challenged what someone's goal might even be, that it doesn't have to be your goal. Right. And I think that's oftentimes we don't challenge what we're conditioned to believe, and we don't know to challenge what we were believed. So the fact that you're bringing it into onto someone's radar, that they could decide, actually, that doesn't really work for me, or actually, that's not my definition of beauty on my body, right? I can love it on someone else and not want it for myself. And that doesn't negate what I deem beautiful either.
Absolutely.
And then you're also telling us how to get there. So that's
Cool. Love it. So the next one, I guess it kind of feeds into, is that women don't need to train differently than men, right? So there's these men's health magazines that have these really awesome strength. They actually have, the men's health magazine, for example, has really awesome strength training programs. They'll teach you how to lift and do progressive overload and form. And I thoroughly enjoy some of these articles, and they're very well written. Flip to like a women's type health magazine, and the exercises are like, there's no dumbbells, or there's a band, or there's a little 1 pound weight and that's pink in their hands. And it's like, do these glute kickbacks. And it's like, well, why can't I do the deadlifts and the shoulder presses and the really badass looking things? Like, why do I have to? Not saying, again, side note, if you don't want to, you don't have to. But we don't need to train differently than men with the fear that we're going to become, quote unquote, too bulky. And I think that's one that we hear a lot, especially as coaches, right? And especially myself as the main programmer in our program, is when I'm having these calls, it's like, I really want to be on a strength training program because I want to get stronger, but I don't want to look this specific way. I don't want to look like, and then they give me examples. And then I go into explaining, well, in order for these women to achieve these specific looks, they put a hell of a lot of years, work, time, effort, food, planning, etc., to look this specific way. You do not need to worry that if a strength training program, that general strength training program, won't get you to look that way. And plus, we don't have the testosterone that the males have to the capacity that they have. So that's also kind of that, to take a little side note on the bulkiness.
Very cool. I was just seeing a reel, probably last week, where this woman, just powerhouse of a woman, was going into the gym and recording her workouts. And these men were saying like smile. And it was like she was smiling intentionally to be funny. And you look psychotic when you're trying to smile.
I saw this.
About, right? And then I'm also thinking, I saw a secondary reel where it was like, ladies, don't be afraid to make faces in the gym. And I think this is probably going along the lines of what you're saying, is that we're given these daintier workout routines with lighter everything because it doesn't actually require us to kind of change our facial expressions. And if we're given more weight, well, we don't appear feminine. We don't appear nice. We don't appear inside this like box of what a woman should be. And now you're actually just outright saying like, no, women and men can train the same. It's going to require an output that might not look like what you're used to physically. But I love, again, that I did not expect you to break things down on such a deep level. And I'm so
It's good. This type of podcast is so fun because I know we both, obviously you brought this topic up for a reason, how much we hear these things and how much of an impact this can have on a lot of our listeners.
Yeah. Okay. Keep going.
Okay. So the next one, I guess, I was going to keep tying them together. So this kind of ties into nutrition and the old school sort of way of that we don't require as much protein for our body weight. Again, this kind of ties into that bulky or muscle mass type conversation. We don't require as much protein. There's even conversation, and this might be new for a lot of people, and that women should not take creatine. And we don't talk a ton about supplements on our podcasts and even with our coaching clients, but this is a supplement that's been very widely studied and one of the most safe and beneficial for women and men who strength train, just to give you that extra energy, and not in terms of like energy like caffeine, but to be able to push harder, longer type kind of capacity. So men take it, and just all my friends, I could say, for example, take it. And then when they hear a female taking it, it's like, well, why? Why do you want to become stronger? So the focus of this conversation might not be about creatine, for example, but the focus is, well, why should you be taking something, or why should you be trying to eat your body weight in pounds protein to get a specific goal? Why do you want to become stronger? And it's like, well, because I have a specific goal of wanting to become stronger. It's just that conversation of the why should you that's been floating around that I kind of wanted to touch on.
Can you see the steam coming out of my ears?
Yeah. I saw the looks. Okay.
Panic. Yeah. How do I keep my face neutral enough? That's a piss off. Like, I don't think I've ever witnessed or thought of saying to a man like, well, why do you want to bulk up? Like, I would never. Go ahead.
So I was gonna say, well, like, imagine saying, well, why do you drink so much water? It's like, well, why do you eat fat? It's like, well, protein sustains my muscles, which sustains my body, which makes me feel like healthy, stronger. I drink water because I want to feel this way and do these things. This is why, it's like, it seems silly to me.
But the point that I really want to make is that we don't ask a man to defend what he wants. If he tells us he wants to bodybuild, if he tells us he wants to compete in something, we're like, oh, wow, cool. Right? When a woman says what she wants directly, well, why do you want to do that? If that is outside of what we think the norm is, like, it's like we want an explanation because we need that explanation to help you fit back into the box that we think should be you or should be feminine. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Definitely.
And I mean, the end of the story could have been where you said, because I want to.
Exactly. And this, again, it angers me because it circles back to what we were taught as normal, right? And I grew up in the magazine era. Like, I read every health, fitness, women's, Cosmo, teen, every magazine you can think of, I was reading them. And it's like on the nutrition page, it was, here's your plate of food and it's very low carb and there's salads everywhere. And then flip to all the men's health, which I started realizing were so much more interesting and had actual science-based evidence in. So I started reading those when I was 17. And then it's like, you flip and it's like, oh, a piece of chicken and salad and a big potato, sweet potato. And it was like, this is what a meal looks like. And this is like, that's another point, but it tacks on to the same conversation of, why does it have to be different? Why does it have to be low carb for women and, a whole foods diet for males? And it angers me that that's what we were taught so young. And it's just to make money, I believe, however, and to create standards that women are more feminine. But these are obviously myths and I know you're listening, you're like, I know this, right? like this conversation has been pretty debunked for a while now, but it's a really important reminder, and kind of take a step back and be like, what did I read then? And do I still have some of those beliefs? Am I catching myself trying to cut my carbs? Am I catching myself, not lifting as heavy because so-and-so's beside me? Like, it's those little things that we don't realize are happening.
So I'll say this, my mom went through the Breaking 90 program as a client,
Right.
and she can't say enough about it, has referred so many people to it, knows the guiding principles, knows the sustainable approach that we take and everything. And she's been off it for probably over a year now. She gained a little bit of weight, and she said to me, I think I'm going to start focusing back on losing weight. So from here on out, no snacks. And I looked at her and I was like, what the fuck?
What did you learn?
It's like, you went through our program. I was so miffed, but I was just like, the principles, all of the things that are going to help you to do the healthiest thing to get you back to that feeling of being healthy for you. And there's the conditioning right away. Oh, well, I cut out rice and I cut out, potatoes in our meal, and I'm not going to have snacks anymore. And it's like, oh, so you just went right back to your conditioned 62-year-old mindset of diet first, because she's been steeped in this stuff a lot longer than our generation has. Even after getting the healthy education or the re-educating of what will actually work for you. So, and I'm sharing that story on purpose so that people, if they're listening to this and finding, their own conditioning, I don't want you to feel shame. We all have stuff so buried deep within us that we forget, oh shoot, I reverted back to something that was not science-based, which I love that you pointed out, like, oh, there's actually science in the men's magazines. Yeah, just to have grace for yourself if you do catch yourself going back to those old teachings, and just, gently walking yourself out of them.
Awesome. That's a really good, I'm glad you shared that. The next one I'd like to talk about, two left that I'm thinking of, and if something else comes to mind, I'll keep going. Excuse me. The next one is the whole, running's better than walking. Or I'll touch on that one. Another one I'm thinking of is, go to the machines. The machines are better than the free weight section. And the reason these come to mind is I'm assuming the running versus walking, I'm thinking calorie burn, right? We're told running is a good way to burn calories, so we should all run and it's better than walking. But when in reality, it might be better for someone who thoroughly loves running and doesn't love walking, then sure, that might be a really good form of exercise for you. If you absolutely hate running and you're more likely to fall off the wagon and do one run a month, but that's your form of cardio, versus if you were someone who's going to walk 30 minutes every other day and feel great about that, then walking is absolutely the way to go, because at the end of the month, you're going to have 5 times the amount of steps in, or however you want to look at it, than you would have that 1 or 2 runs. The other direction I want to take it is that you can achieve the same calorie burn, although you'll have to go a little bit longer, or maybe go every other night, but there's more benefits there might be more benefits for you to walking than running in terms of joint health and things in that nature. So it can take you somewhere a lot further in terms of your fat loss journey, if that's your goal, because you'll be able to sustain it over time.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Awesome. And then the machines versus free weights, that's a little bit more old school again, but it's kind of that, or the women's only section, things in that nature. But I think we kind of touched on that conversation earlier of just, owning the gym's not owned by the men. Like, you kind of access whatever you want to access, lift what you want to lift. And I do think that partly we feel that way, or we were conditioned, is because they've created the women's only section. However, I think they could also be very beneficial for some women who are shy and are new to the gym, and maybe are a little more self-conscious at the start. And so I'm not saying that I don't want to get rid of them, because for some women that could be a really awesome place for you. But I just don't want you to feel like you have to be there or you belong there.
Yeah, I love that. If it's creating a lower barrier to entry, to Absolutely. Say, like, hey, you can comfortably work out in this section without being like ogled at, then come be here, right? But these machines, they don't have pink tacks. They're not just for women. They're just to help get you comfortable until you want want to venture out and use everything available to you.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good summary. And then the last one I'm thinking, and we kind of talked about it through all of them, it's just the myth that we should be skinny or small in order to either be happy or be fit or be healthy. Obviously, in the last quite a few years, there has been more of a movement in being strong, and there's different definitions of what strong and healthy looks like, especially for women. But these myths that, we need to be on a diet pretty much 24/7, and we need to always be achieving that smaller frame or that skinny, smaller look is that myth that I think is the most prevalent, of course, and it's still out there, and it always has been out there. But just to touch on those, obviously, we know there's so many women who have different goals, and a lot of them are to become stronger. So I guess it's more of a summary note, but also just the main point.
That's cool. I like that you're bringing that up, because obviously I'm not going to argue with you a single bit on that. I'm right with you there. The idea of a diet versus a dietary lifestyle is something that I always like to bring into conversation with people, right? Because
Yes.
if you're arguing like, well, I don't want a diet, good, I hope you never do. But what we're trying to say is everyone hopefully should aspire to a dietary lifestyle where you are feeding yourself in a way that is actually fueling you, instead of actively contributing to inflammation in the body and diseases in the body and heart health and all of those different things. It's not about what shape or size you end up taking. It's about how are you helping the internal organs function with what you're giving them, right?
I love it. Awesome. I'm so glad you touched on that, Kelly. Do you have a tip for us today?
Yeah, it actually kind of goes along with my fun ant story at the beginning of this session. Just show up. I'm seeing this all over Instagram of kids being recorded at their recitals and them walking on stage and clocking their parents in the audience, and their whole demeanor just changes, right? And it's like the importance of showing up. And I just wanted to say that, yes, it is so important for a 4-year-old, and yes, it is so important for your kid that's at a very formidable age. It never stops being true for us as human beings. So if your friend is playing on a rec softball team and you can make the game, fucking go. If you're...
Side note, Kelly showed up to my game and it was the best surprise ever.
It's so genuinely fun to show up for your people, and it lights them up and it lights you up, and it fosters so much good well-being within us that I'm like getting emotional. But like show up for your adult sibling. If it's a hobby, if it's just something that they're interested in, showing up is something it's a way that we can feed ourselves and feed our people, which is still fitting in your health and fitness journey.
I love that. Oh, you're the best, Kel. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for listening today. And as always, if you know anyone that you think might benefit from today's podcast, hopefully you do, please share it by taking a screenshot and post it to your Instagram or Facebook page. Thanks so much.